Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsport. Before we get on with it, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy. Nice jacket,
Hello, Dan.
Tim.
Oh, thank you. I got our Turn 4 podcast shirt on today. How about you? What are you wearing?
I'm wearing our Turn 4 podcast shirt.
I dialed in and I was like, oh, look at, we're like Twinkies today, but I don't have a Penske.
But I'm wearing my Penske. This is that 600. Yeah, the 600 win hat.
Yeah, that was last year with Scotty Mac, wasn't it?
Nope. Wrong.
See.
It was New Garden.
Who was it with?
New Garden at Texas.
That's right. He got the money. That's right. I remember now. Yeah, I wonder why you're wearing that hat this week. Because they got another win.
Yeah, and my hair's out of hand, so
is it?
See, I'm not the only vain one.
All right. Yeah, well, yeah, good stuff. I'm excited to be here, Dan.
So am I.
Super excited to do the show tonight. It's a late one, but we're going to get through it. Hopefully we're not too slapstick happy because we're tired.
Oh, no worse than normal.
Not tonight. All right, let's do it. I'm good. I'm so excited. I think the way you have this laid out tonight, just so the folks know, we're going to talk a little F1 and then we're going to get into IndyCar is what I'm sort of looking at.
I like it, Tim. Yeah. F1 is back, right? We waited a long time. We had F1 this weekend. We had IndyCar this weekend.
We did.
If you're a fan of open wheel racing, it was a great weekend for you.
And if you like NASCAR, I think that was on today. It was a Monday race.
Oh, was that for real?
Yeah, I think they were.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know. Shows you how much attention I pay. We got a little NASCAR news at the end. At the big deal.
Oh.
We talked a lot about this break in IndyCar where IndyCar had St. Pete and then, it was about a month off before they went to Texas. And there was almost a month off in Formula One.
Every year.
Yeah, between Australia and Baku.
Mm-hmm.
They get a pass, though, because it would have been the Chinese Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. Which I think China is still under some more restrictive COVID guidelines. So that's why Formula One hasn't been to China in a while to race that.
Yeah.
In the Formula One game, though, right, that I used to play with you and your son, China was one of my favorite tracks to race.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
it was one of my favorite tracks to race.
It is a good track
you guys
to race.
Killed me that one time I raced with you guys.
Well, I think your settings were different than ours. We had easier settings. So that's how that played out. Yeah, the F1 does get a pass because it's not like a scheduled break,
right.
Just the way it happened with the Chinese Grand Prix. And I anticipate, and I'm going out on a limb here, I anticipate we will not have that break next year in IndyCar. I think they're going to fill that spot.
Yeah, something's going to go in there. It won't be Milwaukee. Yeah. It's the wrong time of year.
Yeah, it is the wrong time of year.
I think they'll put something in there.
Yeah.
Argentina.
Definitely. There you go.
Yeah.
You said it.
That. Milka Dono.
Book
right?
it.
She'll be the Grand Marshal. I love it.
Who should?
Milka Dono.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I think
she never got back to me.
That's 2 Milka sightings and 2 podcasts.
Is this like a thing? Are you going to keep a streak going?
I don't know. The more we talk about Argentina, the more her name's going to come up.
Yeah, that is true.
So, yeah. Did you watch the Formula One race? Did you get a chance to?
I watched the first 10 laps, fast forward to the last lap.
You missed nothing.
Is that considered watching? I have no idea. I'd love
it is in my book.
Or listeners
it is
to know book. If to tell me if that's actually watching the race. No, I couldn't watch it.
Did you watch the sprint on Saturday?
Yes, I got sucked into it by my son. Otherwise, I would have never watched it.
What's your take?
Why? I don't get it.
Same.
It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, me neither. I'm with you there. I don't know that we need gimmicks. I talk about gimmicks all the time in NASCAR. I don't know that we need gimmicks.
Yeah.
In Formula
I'm a traditionalist. That's the problem. I'm a traditionalist, so I don't.
Some people call that
doesn't do anything for me. I'm sorry.
Some people call that aversion to change. Change averse. Yeah.
That could be it for sure. So yeah, I watched the sprint race. It was short and sweet, 17 laps, something like that, 14, 17. I think it was 17.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sergio took that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
So
mean, here's the deal. Red Bull just continues their run through the field. I mean, they've won 4 out of 4 races, though I could tell you that it's probably not as scripted the way Max Verstappen would have it scripted, with 2 wins each of the Red Bull duo. Interesting times there. I mean, Ferrari did seem a little better settled than in the previous 3 races. Leclerc had taken pole in both the sprint as well as the Grand Prix, but just really wasn't able to keep up with the Red Bulls.
I know, and I'm curious. I was asked this question. I want to ask you this question, Dan, and it has to do with the Red Bull. And the question is, what chance do you give Checo of winning the F1 championship? And before you answer, I want to tell you that he's only 6 points back of Verstappen right now.
Yeah.
What is your percentage that Checo wins the F1 championship?
Well less than 50.
Well less than 50.
Not quite 0,
well, I was asked
but less than 25, 30%. Something would happen to happen to Max for Checo to take this championship.
Yeah. I had heard in the house it was like, 25, 30%. I gave a 0.1% chance that Checo wins the championship. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, but not likely. And even then, I mean, Max wasn't exactly happy to finish where he finished, but we're going to get into that actually. We're going to talk about that a little later on. Ferrari seemed better settled, like I said. Mercedes, again, still looks lost at sea. In fact, we were treated to wonderful quotes by Total Wolf in a Racer.com article entitled, "We are more stuck than before." And I don't want to read all of this, but I want to hit some of the highlights. I'm going to probably end up reading all this. I think this is Toto, right? So I think for our car, it is more about the ride control than sheer downforce. He says, Red Bull, you can see on the onboard, the car is barely moving on the straights or over bumps. Corner balance looks easy. And you look at all the other onboards and the cars are tricky. So I think generally, this is still Toto Wolff, I think generally the ground effect cars are poop cars. It's just who has the poopiest is ahead. I had to clean it up a little bit because we're a family show.
Yeah, you did clean that up. I was wondering with all the asterisks that are going on, how you were going to do that.
I mean, I don't think going from dynasty to dynasty is really good for Formula One, but that's what we're doing, right? We just left the Mercedes dynasty and they can't seem to get it figured out, which is just stunning to me. So it goes to show you when spending was spend what you got, they could figure it out, right? But now they have to be a little bit more strategic, a little more careful with what they're doing. They still can't figure it out. And Ferrari had a good car starting last year. Yeah. So they've been kind of stayed in that good, better than good, slightly better than good car. And Mercedes' car is okay, but they've not really been able to get out of okay.
Yeah, and I thought Mercedes brought some upgrades to this race, to the car, but nothing panned out for them. No. They didn't do well at all. Lewis in front of, what's his name?
Alonso.
George.
Oh, George,
Lewis in front of George, right? In the group. So,
but that was kind of,
it was
right. The oddity, because I mean, George has really had a better handle of this car than Lewis this season. It feels like, right?
Yeah. It seems like, but yeah, they just don't, they don't have it yet. And Baku was not the race for them to shine at all. So I think what Toto's saying could be true for sure.
I think, Red Bull's dominance of this current formula is almost making a mockery of the regulation changes. I think the premise behind the regulation changes, limiting the spend with the cost cap and limiting the development at the higher end teams, as an example, Aston Martin gets more development than Mercedes does, based on how they finished last year, than Ferrari does, than Mercedes does. AlphaTauri gets more than anybody. So it's like, or Williams gets more than anybody. So based on how they finished last year. So that was supposed to try to level the playing field in a way. It really looks, at least through 4 races, that it's made the playing field worse, right? This is the Detroit Lions playing, Toledo North High School, right? I mean, that's just what it is, right? I mean, it's, I don't even know if that high school exists, but I mean, it's like that's the whole point of it, right? It's like, it's that much further that the teams have gotten with these new regulations, and Red Bull's right at the center of it. And, in that same article, Toto drops this kind of, well, hey, we have to do a better job developing, or we could change the regulations. Of course, I'm not in favor of that, but, we're just going to have to do a better job. But it's like, really, dude, because it's clear that people have been lobbying to make changes to the regulations to help, tie Red Bull down a little bit. But let's face it, Red Bull has a penalty from last year, and it doesn't seem to have done anything to them.
No.
Hasn't changed them at all, because they started with a great platform. So they have a little less development. Yeah, but the thing is still
we always talk about getting it right out of the gate, even in IndyCar. And I know it's different this whole scenario there, but they got it right. They found something that no one else has seemed to have found yet. And they continue their dominance, almost like you get in the lead and then you just pace yourself for the rest of the race, and you're not pushing, you're not going all out to stay in front. You're managing the tires, you're managing the fuel consumption, and you're just managing the race, right? As soon as someone gets a faster lap than you, next lap you turn up the wick, and you get the fastest lap. So they've got a handle on this field, and I think you already know I think everybody knows who the champion is going to be, and from race to race, you know they're going to take it unless there's some catastrophic failure on both Red Bulls. They're going to win the races. So it's obviously not good for the fans, and I think fans are going to go, is this what I really want to watch and see every race? Yeah, the technology's cool, the hype's cool, the tracks are amazing and gorgeous. They do it to the 9s or to the 10s or whatever you want to call it. They go all the way to the top with every single event that they put together. So the other thing that I think, they're going to Miami, right? They're going to Miami this weekend. They're coming up, and I still saw advertisement for tickets not that long ago. So I don't know if they've sold that out again or what's going on and what that sort of event's going to look like. Obviously there's going to be people, there's going to be some hype, but it wasn't like last year or the first year or whatever you want to call it. So we'll see how that goes on.
$1,000 for GA, right? At Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, it was, at least last year. It was super crazy.
$1,000 for general admission. You and I paid what, $4 something for general for COTA?
Yeah,
that's a big premium.
$460 at Austin.
Yeah. So,
well, would you be in Miami or the Dust Bowl, right?
I don't.
Austin was the Dust Bowl.
Been there, done that at this point, right? Unless something materially changes, I don't see myself clamoring to get back. Tim, if you were in charge, what would you do? Change the regulations?
Nothing. No, I wouldn't change the regulations. Yeah, the other teams catch up. You made the rules. I think you look over the Red Bull to see what's going on and what they've got different than others, just so that you understand from a regulation standpoint next year what you could change. But I don't think you do it mid-season. I don't think that's the right call. You got to let it play out, let the other teams catch up potentially. But Red Bull's not going to let up, right? They're still going to develop. They're still going to do what they need to do to keep their competitive advantage.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Same. I think this is the nature of Formula One. If you get it right, and you get to flaunt it to your competition, and the competition just has to figure out how to catch up. I don't think mid-season regulation change on grounds of competition is right. If it were a safety issue, like it was kind of last year with all the porpoising and everything, then you could probably do that. But if it's just on competition grounds, no. The other teams just have to do better. Let's say up until this past weekend, right? Up until Baku, Aston Martin was really, really good. Showed a lot of pace. They were really good, and then they seemed to have stumbled a little bit with some quality, and it wasn't great. So, I mean,
But this is the
people
first.
are going to come on in development. I mean, McLaren's not going to be battling for second or third here, but I mean, McLaren's got some development that's coming, and Aston Martin surely will have some development coming. And then, right, we're told that the Mercedes is going to have a significant pivot in their philosophy. So,
yeah. And Alonso finished fourth, first time this season
off the
podium. Yeah, which was interesting to see. And I don't think anybody going into this season would have ever thought that. So,
no,
they're still strong. There was a great pass. That was the one pass that was actually called a real pass in Formula One when Alonso got around the other Ferrari to get into that position. I think the other thing,
right, past Carlos Sainz.
I think the other thing they should do, and this whole DRS thing it's just, I think it's bad for competition. I just think if you got DRS, you're going to go past the guy in front of you, especially the Red Bulls. Like, get rid of DRS or let them use it whenever they want to use it to defend as well as
wherever,
to
right,
pass.
wherever and whenever. Let them use it. Yeah, if you're going to make it available,
like do that. Yeah. So I think they should, like, if you want to do something in season, maybe that's not an in season, but if you want to change the regulations, I think you start there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's funny. I was texting Gacker right during the race yesterday, and he made this great point, which is totally awesome. Alonso timed this change from Alpine to Aston Martin better than he's ever timed any other change in his career.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally,
without a doubt. Yeah, so he's got it going on there.
I don't know if that's by luck or if that's
I think it's luck. I really do. Who knew, right? I don't think anybody knew what was going. I mean, they had everything lined up on paper and the investments and everything that Lawrence Stroll has done for that team. Yes, but you still got to be able to put it in play, And that's always.
Did you watch the entire?
Mm-hmm.
The entire event? You did?
Yeah, I watched it on DVR. I didn't get up for it, but I watched it on DVR.
And you fast forward it or no?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. I watched it. Final note on Formula One. Max was sour grapes after the race. Right. So this is kind of what I alluded to before. He was unhappy. Well, he was happy for the team. He said all the right things, took all the right pictures, and did everything there during the interviews and all that. But he wants a review by Red Bull of the call that was made to bring him in when they brought him in. Here's the review, Max. I'm just some schmuck with a microphone. They brought you in because it was the time to bring you in, and there was a yellow flag that happened afterward.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You win some, you lose some, pal.
Yep.
And that's the way
it goes.
My 2 cents, and I want to hear what you have to say. He is, without a doubt, the better driver of those two, okay? And I root for Checo just as hard as I'd root for anybody.
Are you sure? Or are they setting the car up for him?
No, they're setting the car up for Max, right? And Checo's got it.
That's what I mean. Is that makes him the better driver, or is he actually the better driver?
I both. I think he is the better driver of the two. But he wasn't able to do anything, and he wasn't able to get there. Alonso had a pass on Ferrari. They're both in equal cars. So if Checo doesn't have the benefit of DRS because he's in the lead, and Max were close enough to him, he'd have blown by him at 15 kilometers an hour more than what Checo would to retake that lead. But never did.
Passing somebody on the expressway. Yeah.
Exactly. So he never got to that opportunity. So I think it's a little less of the call was bad or there was some problem here, but you can have some cheese with that wine on your private jet, Max, but there was nothing wrong with the call. It just happens. Okay.
Yeah, tighten up the championship points, and that's why I asked the question. Do you think there's a chance Checo can win this championship? And I still don't think there is, but
there isn't. I agree with you.
If you gave him a better
a 20%, 30% chance is nothing.
Yeah.
I'd go out and ride my bike with a 20% chance of rain.
Max was upset in the sprint race too. I don't know. You said you didn't see it, but George Russell hit him in the side and caused
I did see it. No, I watched the sprint too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you
And I
did?
loved it because, Max thought he was going to go wandering on over to teach, Georgia a lesson. And Georgia was basically, whatever, Max. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
racing, pal. Whatever he said to him, but
Yep.
he was not contrite one bit,
Hmm.
right? He wasn't having it. He wasn't listening. The only thing I'll say about that is this. I don't think that Russell's necessarily a clean driver. Is he as dirty as kind of Lance Stroll has been on occasion? No, I don't think so. But I don't think Russell's that clean a driver at all. We saw him put a move on Valtteri Bottas a couple of years ago that was a massive crash, right? Because
Hmm.
he was driving out of his mirrors. It's funny. Max can drive like that with Carlo or with Charles Leclerc, and they don't come together. But you put
Yeah.
the black, Mercedes next to him. It doesn't matter who's in it, and they can't seem to race wheel to wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
don't know. Max obviously feels he's the guy, and he's the one who needs the most attention, and people
yeah.
need to move out of his way because he's the quickest.
But it goes back to, I think, what we've talked about here, and certainly what we've talked about privately, is to be that person, you have to be a killer. You have to have a complete and total disregard for
You do.
your competition. And even if
Yeah,
your
you can't be the
competition is
nice guy
wearing
on
the
the track,
same,
right?
yeah, even if your competition is wearing the same uniform in the same color
Hmm.
car,
That is true.
right? And I think
Killer
that's true
instinct.
of all of these great champions, multiple champions in Formula
Hmm.
One. They're all vicious.
Yep.
You already said you don't want to talk about the sprint, but we did kind of talk a little bit about the
We did
sprint. So I
talk
guess we
about,
can
yeah, I
move
didn't
on to
really
that.
want to, but we did. And we both watched it, which is
Oh yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I watched it. I watched the whole weekend. So I watched qualifying and
It was a
watched
crappy
the sprint and all
weekend,
that.
right?
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of
Yeah, it
inside
was
time.
horrible.
So
Yeah. Um On to the beautifully picturesque Barber Motorsports. It's a 10 and a half drive, 10 and a half hour drive from the southeast office of the T4 Productions.
I just drove through there on our way to Florida for spring break not too long
Yeah.
ago. So I know exactly how far it is.
I want to
And
go.
it says 10 and a half, and with traffic, you're probably 12.
And with a camper, it's probably 14. So it's 2 days, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to go. I
Is
want to
it
go
really
next year.
Augusta to you? I keep referencing that.
Have you been to Augusta?
I've seen it on TV.
I've
No, I've
been.
not been to Augusta.
Yeah, I've been to Augusta. It's amazing. And
Do you think
it's
Barber is that
green.
amazing?
It's green and undulating like that. No, but it's a really good comparison. I mean, compared to the other tracks, I mean, I'm going to Road America because it's a bucket list, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, it's got its beauty
I don't
to
know.
it in a degree, but the green and the, perfectly manicured, what looks like perfectly manicured landscaping and stuff at this
Yeah, I
racetrack is
guess
unbelievable.
you got to compare it to racetracks in the US, right? You
Yeah.
can't say Augusta versus like it's kind of like Spa because
Yeah.
that's not here in the US.
No,
So
right. Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. It's not
I don't like
Augusta
the
versus,
comparison. I don't know why. It just irks me.
yeah,
But anyways,
some goat ranch that you get to do like Twilight Golf for $15 all you can play. You know what I mean? It's not right. I mean, that's the comparison. So, um, I want to go next year. I'm hoping I can talk my bride into going there. It's middle April, so I mean the weather there will be beautiful, and it'll probably be a good time to get the hell out of Southeast Michigan.
yeah, look, yeah, it
Yeah,
looked
I
great
talked her into
there.
Road America
75
this year,
sunny.
so maybe I can do that next year. I don't know if I can do 2 for 2
I
or ask
think you
for it
can
for my
talk her into
birthday
it.
because it falls right around my birthday. Last year, it was April 18th,
Yeah.
so I think
They typically get a lot of rain though, so I'm
don't
surprised
care.
it held off this year. So
Yeah, I'd take it. Warm and rain. I don't care. Before we get started with the Power 5 rundown, I want to remind listeners of our picks. And I'm also going to include Spencer's picks. And who is Spencer? Spencer is our web guru from IndyCar1909.com, the official web partner of this high quality podcast.
all right.
So,
I can't wait
all
for you to
right.
go over
So,
these. I think I
poll,
did the best.
yeah, poll was I had Pillow, Timmy had Herta, and Spencer had Newgarden.
Mhm.
For the win, I had Alexander Rossi, and Timmy had Pato Award, and Spencer had pole and win for Newgarden. For our dark horse, it's interesting. Herta I had Herta. Timmy had Marcus Armstrong, and Spencer had Christian Lundgaard.
Wow,
which is
I didn't
just
realize he had
unbelievable to me.
Lundgaard.
Yeah,
I know he had Newgarden, but I didn't.
Yeah. Which is a great pick. Based on what happened, I don't know what kind of clairvoyance Spencer had going on there before he, before he picked that with Lundgaard, because I giggled at that harder than I giggled at Armstrong.
Well,
but good job.
Armstrong did well, though. If he's the biggest mover of the race.
Yeah.
And he got the award, as you saw, because I know you watched the post race.
But he didn't.
But he had that issue in qualifying.
Like
I'm sorry?
I said, but he didn't finish 6th like Lundgaard.
No, he did not. Yeah. He was the biggest mover, though.
Yeah,
Lundgaard finished where he started.
Yep, he did. He did. Team Penske takes the win. Really strong race for Team Penske. Had, Newgarden not had this mysterious mechanical issue with his car, I mean, Tim, we could have been looking at a Penske 1, 2, 3 that we haven't seen in years.
Yeah, we could have. It would have been close. At least a 1, 2, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Through
3.
4 races, Team Penske is 4th, 6th, and 7th in the championship on the strength of 2 wins. All the attention that we've paid to the resurgent Andretti Autosport, I'd say that Penske is hot at the right time as they're getting ready to head into the building, right? Who's owned by the guy whose name is on the building.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be really good for the Grand Prix. I'm still on the fence when it comes to the 500.
NDGP. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I mean, I think they will be. Scott McLaughlin takes a really good victory from a dominant Grosjean, though. Right? I mean, I was torn with this finish. I'm a huge Scott McLaughlin fan. I like his style, his whole attitude, demeanor, everything that goes into it. But I've been rooting for Grosjean since day one, right? His year with Coyne and the mess that was his first year at Andretti last year. I've been rooting for him. Still, Scott McLaughlin led 24 laps on the way to victory. So it wasn't just a gimme at the end, right? I mean, he led 24 laps. Scott and his teammates went against the conventional wisdom of a 2-stop race and made 3 stops the best route to victory.
I am surprised, and I think most of the listeners are surprised, that all 3 cars went on a 3-stop strategy. Penske never does that. You always have usually 2 cars on one, another one on a different strategy. I'm thinking it wasn't planned that way, that it was planned for Scotty and it was planned for power, but Newgarden fell into that because of the issue that he had. Yeah. Because I don't think Penske ever does that. And if they did do it on purpose, whatever they did when it came to analyzing and they're looking at the stats of what is the best strategy, it was overwhelmingly a 3-stop strategy was going to win this race no matter what. And that's why they put all their cars in one bucket. Like I said, it never happens. And they must have found something that all the other teams maybe didn't find. I know there's others that did a 3-stop strategy, but for Penske to do that, it was just not normal. And
I would agree with you. In a lot of cases, Will and Scott are on the same strategy, and Tim Cindric and Newgarden kind of do their own thing a lot of times. And you're probably right. They might have started on that 2-stop strategy and then were kind of forced into 3-stopper based on what they could see what was happening with the teammates and some of the other Chevys, Arrow McLaren. Yeah, what was happening there that looked like a 3-stop strategy was playing itself out. So.
Yeah, because you had I was just gonna say you had Alexander Rossi going a 3-stop strategy. Felix Rosenquist was kind of forced into it with his error at the beginning of the race, and so maybe that changed some of it. But it sounded like when they talked to Newgarden, it was almost like that was the plan going forward when they came out of the morning meeting. So they saw something in the stats that said this is the way to go. Turn the wick all the way up. You're gonna be 2 seconds faster a lap, and they had a good finish.
Yeah. Will Power finishes 3rd. At one point in the closing stages of this race, Scott McLaughlin's pit stand told him, "You might be racing Will Power." before the end of this thing. And I think they meant it, because Will was coming, and he was coming after Grosjean pretty hard. But of course, in the post race, we find that Will still had good tires. He had a good car. He could still run a fast lap, but in turbulent air, it just wasn't happening for him. So that's kind of what prevented him, to get in used reds nonetheless, right? So he was having trouble with that, and that kind of slowed him down. I loved his line at the end, though, right? When they were interviewing him, he was like, "Oh yeah, it was tough," or whatever. But he's like, "Still fit for an old bloke." That made me laugh. I love Will Power. Yep. I love Will Power too. I really do. One of my all-time
favorites. He went back to, I'm going to take what I can get. I'm not going to press Grosjean at the very end. He maybe could have, but he decided, in the dirty air, it just wasn't worth it. You could throw away the race, and he had a solid third place finish, and he was happy with that after not qualifying as great as he normally does. So
11th.
It's interesting. He finishes third. It's interesting. He has the fastest lap of the race.
Yes.
I'll have you. And it's interesting that he says, well, it's an old Chevy power plant. We're down a little bit on horsepower, which I think behind the scenes, the PR people said, you can't say that about the Chevy engine.
Yeah.
And so he changed his tune the next day.
He did. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Yep.
So it goes to show you, even you have Romain Grosjean on day one of practice, blows an engine, and no one can say the engine blew. It's crazy.
Quite
There's
clearly
smoke coming out of the back, and everybody's like, well, something, it looks like a power plant.
Maybe.
We're going to change the engine. Well, it blew up. There's some code. You don't ever bash the engine manufacturers, ever. There's some code that goes on.
Yeah, I think that's silly. 15th for Joseph Newgarden, Joseph with an F. Kind of a shame for Joseph. I mean, he got hit by Felix Rosenquist in the early laps, but I don't think that that's what was causing him to have the problems that he was reporting, because he was reporting problems before he got hit. Just felt that the balance was off. There was something wrong there.
He was hit on the other side.
Right.
Come on.
The pit box said to him that it looked like there was a problem with the balance. Right. The side lateral balance or something. I forget what they said.
Yeah, that's not very Penske-like.
No.
If his crew wouldn't have put on those shirts and they would have paid more attention to the car, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, for those listeners who haven't seen it on social media, the Newgarden's crew have these like muscle T-shirts with the muscles airbrushed into them. Just kind of just taking some fun out of Joseph's shirtless pick at 100 Days of Indy last week.
So,
he checked all the boxes. It made me feel, bad about myself. So I was happy to just eat another pint of ice cream while watching 100 Days of Indy. After eating a bag of M&Ms on my way home from Chicago the same day. Small bag, but a bag nonetheless. So he was able to carry on.
Popcorn? Did you eat a whole bag of popcorn?
I did not. I have not eaten anything messy in the new truck since I got it.
Oh.
I'm waiting to pile in.
Not like the rental where you're just like shoveling.
Yeah. I'm waiting to get in there with you and your 3 children before I christen it with the popcorn bag.
Oh yeah. We're going to tear that new car and that new ride up.
Yep.
No, we're not.
Yep. I think, Joseph was angry with himself. He had made a mistake in qualifying, and, he's obviously very hard on himself. And then he had the issue with the car. So not a great weekend. I think not something that he would be looking for on this. And, I think he's ready to move on. I think he's ready to go home, so to speak, to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
They've had a lot of
6th in the points, so big deal. I mean, it's, big deal.
Yeah, you're not out of it. Not by any means.
Right. Got the best. I mean, he's got one of the best cars week in and week out. I don't know. You can't hang your head on that. So
totally.
Andretti Autosport, part 2. This is a continuation of the team's resurgence this season. Last week I mentioned we would have to see if their street course dominance carries over to the road course with the rolling hills and the off-camber turns. And I would say mixed, Tim. I say mixed because Grosjean wins pole, but his teammates start 12th for Kirkwood, 14th for Herta, and 18th for DeFrancesco. So Grosjean had a handle on this type of course, but the balance of the team, not as much.
Yeah, I think so. But Kirkwood spun it in qualification. And so
You don't spin a good handling car.
well, he got radioed over that said, you got a car coming up, you need to get moving. And I think they were all good and they were all, well, I, I think they've turned the corner. And
I
I don't
think
think
they've
it's
turned the
mixed.
corner. I don't think they were all good here.
Yeah, Herta went off in the race, right? His tires went off and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, okay, fine. I'm with you.
I have an omission on the on the notes. You'll see it here in a second.
I think I know what it is, but I thought it was on
Grosjean
purpose.
finishes second. No, Grosjean finishes second. I really expected this win from him this weekend. I mean, about as dominant as you could get. 57 of 90 laps led. Wasn't really challenged until the final pit stop from McLaughlin, and it was that third stop that was the change, because the two-stop strategy meant he still needed to save some fuel toward the end of this, and he wasn't going to be able to go straight out. Whatever he did with that push to pass, I think he just got a little push to pass happy. My feeling about this is that's a learning moment from the pit stand to coach him out of it once in a while. That says, hey, you might want to save some of that, to the end. You don't always want to put it over the radio because everybody monitors, but you know what? Everybody's watching it on Peacock or on NBC anyway, so they know what you got.
Yeah, you can see the number.
Yeah, so it's like, if
which
you
he
come
had
on
a ton, and then all of a sudden it was
had
gone.
a ton, and then all of a sudden he had none. Yeah.
So I thought it was a technical issue, but that's not come out. Nobody said it was or is.
Wouldn't that be delicious headline though, if he had a problem with it? Oh my God.
It would be.
Right?
I've never heard of a problem with that. So that would be
that is something that would never come out, right? Just like the engine blown, right? Could be an electrical issue.
Yeah.
They would never say it. They would never fess up to that. That would never get out.
I don't think they would either.
Yeah. That would never get out. It's a shame that he didn't pull this win, but I think more than ever, Tim, and I was very, very optimistic last year. I think more than ever, he's going to get a win this season.
And I was pulling for him. I was pulling for him in the race. He made the pass there by Scotty Mac, and I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And then Scott got it back. So, but again, it was a fuel save. It was out of push to pass. You get what you can. It was good to see that they raced each other clean, which I wouldn't expect anything else. They had to come together over there at St. Pete, but that's, behind them. They moved on from it. So it was great racing. It was really good racing between the two. And they were dusting the rest of the field. They were way out in front until the end when Power made his run that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Kyle Kirkwood finishes 12th. Long Beach winner started and finished 12th. Didn't really see much action out of Kirkwood at Barber. Not sure the miss here, but I mean, other than Grosjean, this wasn't one of the stronger showings for the balance of the Andretti squad.
Yeah, I think so. The competition is so tough. You get off just a little bit, and it's tough to make up those spots, and it's tough to be competitive throughout the entire race. And as it was mentioned in the race, they brought a softer compound than they had in the past to Barber to spice up the competition. I think you have to manage the tires. If you're on a two-stopper, you're also managing fuel. You have the yellow that hits at the right time for the three stoppers, and IndyCar keeps it green so the three stoppers can come in and do their pit stop. And then at that point, you're like, whoa, we're going to have to hold on here. But I agree. Yeah. Andretti Autosport didn't miss. They just didn't hit with every single car, but they're back 100% in my book. Oh yeah. And they're going to be strong going into the GP for sure.
Yeah. Herta finishes 14th. I'll be honest with you, Tim, I have no notes on Colton Herta from this race. Other than he took 6 spots at the beginning, and that was it. We didn't hear from him the rest of the day.
Well, then he fell. He was on reds, and he fell completely back. So that was his issue. They just didn't have the right balance for the.
Yeah, and they were beholden to this number, right? You got to get it to 30 or whatever it was. You got to get it to lap 30, and in the meantime, he's dropping like he's carrying a parachute. And it's like at some point you got to kind of call it, right? Is it worth coming in early and sacrificing some of that time to get it back with fresh tires and a full, a full rich setting? Or do you stay beholden to this? Well, we got to get them to 29. We got to get them to 29 or 30 in order for our strategy to work. It's like you're racing to a strategy as opposed to the strategy kind of evolving as it needs to, right? Similar to what we talked about with Penske.
Yeah.
That was what potentially could have been an evolving strategy for somebody on the other end there.
And you put all 4 cars in the same strategy. You have a 2 stoppers for all 4 cars. How come you don't split them up? Their book said two stopper. Penske said 3 stop, and
Arrow McLaren says 3 stop. Yeah. 23rd, Devlin DeFrancesco. And if I have nothing written down for Herta, guess what I got written down for Devlin? Even nothing. Less.
I know.
I forgot to put them in the notes.
I thought it was on purpose.
No, I'm so embarrassed.
But yeah, 23rd, he's driving back there with one of your guys. So that's crazy to see.
You leave him alone. Arrow McLaren, kind of a mixed weekend here. I had picked Rossi as my winner, but missed on that. You had Award as your winner, missed on that too. Funny though, both of us had Arrow McLaren, right, as our winning team in this thing. 4th place, Pato finishes. I think he needs this finish. And I know how absurd that sounds from somebody who's second in the championship, but he lost all composure in Long Beach, bouncing and banging all over everybody and all over anything that he could. He had everything but the pace car. And he needed a good bounce back like this. 4th place with Award.
Is that a JPM reference at all with the pace car? I know there wasn't.
No, it was the Days of Thunder. Remember, hit the pace car. hit the pace car. Hit the pace car. Why? Because you hit everything else out there.
Okay, that's where it's from. Yeah. I was thinking of JPM blowing.
This moment brought to you by Dan Maldonado. Can't remember what he ate for breakfast, but can remember lines out of Days of Thunder. So, did you hear on the broadcast where they talked about Award was trying to chum it up with Scott Dixon a little bit, went into the man hug, and Dixon was like, "No, dude, we're not that close."
Yeah, I know, totally.
I would have paid real money to see that live in action.
Yeah,
how embarrassing! You got to know your audience, dude. Right? Like he's a great talent. The kid's going to be good. He's going to be good for a long time. Scott Dixon is royalty in IndyCar right now, right? There's a certain decorum and respect that goes along with your interactions with Scott Dixon in person or on track. And I think that's part of it, right? Especially can you race him hard? Do you want to beat him? Absolutely you do. Nobody better that you want to beat, right? Given the history and who he is and his standing.
Yeah. Yep.
But dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, you got to understand, if you punt him into the wall and he thinks it's your fault and you don't apologize for it, you're not going to get the man hug and the indignance,
right? You might have gotten a man hug if you'd have been like, you know what, hey, I looked at it and I mean, in hindsight, it
was an ill-advised
move. Yeah.
You something like that. He might have been like, all right, I get it.
Yeah. 8th place, Alexander Rossi. Again, Rossi was my pick for the win here. I know he likes this track, and Arrow McLaren is typically good here. That's probably why you and I both picked Arrow McLaren drivers for the win. And I figured that would equal his first win with this new team. Rossi was on that 3-stop strategy, which was end up being a good strategy, and it's probably what salvaged this top 10 finish. But otherwise, really wasn't much of a show. He spent a lot of time racing his teammate.
He did, and his teammate coming up behind him, right? So Felix coming back through the field after he had the incident. But yeah, Rossi he said there were some miscalculations with the team, and he talked about that in the post-race interview, and that they just weren't hitting on all cylinders. They haven't gelled yet, is what I heard him say. That's what I heard, Dan. And they're still working out the communication pieces. So I think overall, the finish isn't bad, but it's not what he anticipated coming into the race. He was fastest in the morning warm-up, Dan. Yes. We all know how important that is. And he still didn't come through the field.
Yep.
And a 3-stopper, you should have got around, but they were all held up for a little bit. And some of those 3-stoppers were behind 2-stoppers and they couldn't get around.
Can I talk about the gel now?
Yeah,
His
take
race
your hat off and
strategist,
talk about the gel.
his race strategist is Brian Barnhart. You know who his race
Yes,
strategist was at Andretti the last couple of years? Brian
same guy.
Barnhart. Yep. If they haven't gelled by now, I don't know why Barnhart followed him to Arrow McLaren.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Nobody
is.
looks
He
good in
mentioned
orange.
it though. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. Something he wasn't happy about some
Yeah, and it
communication
happens.
piece.
Yeah, sure.
I know.
Yeah. It's a
I don't
very
know. We're gonna see
complicated sport,
Rossi
right?
in victory lane
If it
this.
was easy, everybody'd be doing it.
Yeah, is Rossi gonna go to victory lane this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereabouts? If you just
Unquestioned.
had to throw it out there.
Detroit, Road America,
Okay. I was thinking Road America.
Iowa's, Gateway,
Yeah.
Portland.
Not in. Yeah. I know Gateway.
Yeah. Felix Rosenquist takes 9th place. Nice rebound, like you mentioned. He had an early spin. That's where he bumped Newgarden. He went all the way back. I mean, and he battled back to 9th. I mean, I think that Felix also probably has a win in him this season too. I really do.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's
And
had
I
some
just
bad
think if
luck
he
and some
hadn't
weird things, but
if he hadn't, spun out, where would he have ended up if he drove through the field and then he got held in this group, right? So, he's battling Newgarden, like you said, or early on in the race. And then next thing you know, he's back in the mix and
yeah,
gets back in the mix just on pure driving through the
yeah,
field. It's
grunt.
not, he wasn't
Yeah.
given anything. Yeah.
He probably would have been battling with Pelot and Lundgaard, right? Who were both on 2 stops. Scott Dixon. He would have somewhere be, I know this is hedging, but I mean, he probably would have been somewhere just a couple of spots ahead of where he finished. I think he would have probably finished, 5th through 7th. I don't think he was as good as Award, and he certainly wasn't as good as Power or Grosjean.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yep.
We'll never know.
I'm going to put you on the spot with this one because this isn't in the notes. Is Felix going to be at Arrow McLaren next year?
Nope.
If not, where?
Good question. Where would he go? I'm thinking potentially Andretti.
I'm thinking straight up swap with Pelot. He goes back.
You think he's going over to Ganassi?
Yeah.
Could be.
Yep. Go straight back to Ganassi.
See where he's not going to be back though, right? Pelot's going to Arrow. He's already signed. He's a reserve.
What a great segue, Tim. So Chip Ganassi
Who else do they
are
have?
power 3rd, right?
They are power 3. No, they're power 4, by the way.
Power 4. Yeah, sorry. Power 4.
Who else is on the McLaren team? Who else did you see this weekend?
Everybody. I am. I was signed to a development deal with Arrow McLaren.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Tim, Chip Ganassi Racing, power 4th. Thank you.
Yeah, number 4.
Is this still Scott Dixon's team? Or has he moved into an emeritus role with Pelot being the lead?
He's still the lead. Scott Dixon is the lead.
Think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pelot's only there because of a legal issue. Otherwise, he's not even on the team.
Right. Potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that's bold because what you said, right? Everybody believes that this is Pelot's going to ride out the contract. He's certainly not just riding it out. I mean, he's racing and he's competing.
The kid's good.
And he's going to be there. He's going to be out after this season, right? All signs kind of point to that. But I don't think it's because Ganassi doesn't want him. And I don't think it's because Ganassi wouldn't take him back, because I do think Ganassi would take him back. And I'm not one of those that thinks that Pelot going to McLaren is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, well, you never know.
There's no room. There's no room in the F1 car. There's no room in the F1 car. Lando Norris isn't going anywhere. Oscar Piastri, they wrestled him away from Alpine, so he ain't going anywhere. So if you're Pelot, you leave a championship favorite, an Indy 500 favorite, and I said this last year, for a team that's doing really, really well, but they haven't arrived yet.
I know, but he already played his cards. It's over. There's not a chance.
We'll put a pin in it and we'll come back to it when the time is right. Fifth place, Alex Palou. He was my pole pick. He started second, so I got that right. But I believe the two-stop strategy is really what hampered his day. He was fast, but he needed to bring it home, and did so in fifth behind Pato Award, but ahead of the unbelievably fast Lundgaard, who we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Yeah. It's a good run for Polo. I would have liked to see him do a little bit better. Obviously, he was the team lead, but he's still not the team leader. But he was the lead for this particular race, and just smooth and steady, right? He's got it. I don't understand the whole situation that went on with McLaren and them pulling him away. Well, I get it. Well, Zach Brown takes everybody. So. But he's on a top tier team, as we all know. He's on a team that he could win any day at any race, the best Indy 500 package car. But if your aspirations are Formula One, Ganassi doesn't have a Formula One team. So,
yeah, but Ganassi didn't have a Formula One team when Alex Denari went to Formula One.
I know, I agree.
Right,
you're right.
Newman Haas didn't have a Formula One team when Sebastian Bourdais went to Formula One. Or when Cristiano D'Amato went to Formula One.
Yeah.
I think if you're really good, you can find a drive in Formula One. It's McLaren gets you on the fourth step, maybe, as opposed to, the bottom, take it, because my lifelong dream is to be in Formula One. I think even with some of the struggles that they've had, they're not a backmarker team.
Yeah.
So you never know.
And the drivers get the best company cars. Aaron McLaren ones.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Seventh place, Scott Dixon. I really wanted to see Scott go side by side with Award in this one, for reasons we talked about already. Right? I think it really would have been outstanding drama. Who knows how it would have shook out, but I don't think that Dixon had what he needed to go, side by side with Award in this. I don't think he was just playing it safe. I just don't think he had what he needed.
Yeah, they were nose to tail for a little bit, but then dissolved.
Yep. 10th place, Marcus Ericsson, or the first Marcus. First, we got to congratulate Marcus. Apparently, he got married during the break here. Yeah. So congratulations
good for him.
to Marcus. Yeah. Good for him. He's in a great place, and by all accounts, should be secure in his IndyCar career. Really, I mean, Indy 500 champ. He's leading the championship right now. He led the championship last year. He's done really good. He's in a contract year with Ganassi. If Ganassi somehow doesn't re-sign him, he's going to be picked up somewhere. And maybe that's the fourth Penske you've been looking for a couple of years.
Because he has budget.
He does have budget. Yeah, Husky Chocolate is his.
Yep.
But he doesn't want to be a pay driver anymore. He feels that
I heard that.
His resume is such that he can be a paid
He's leading the championship.
driver.
I know that's later in the notes. So
Yeah.
So I agree. He shouldn't be a paying driver, but if Husky Chocolate wants to flip the bill, then to be in a market that they can't sell their energy drink or their nutritional drink for building muscle.
Yeah, they're still getting some kind of exposure in Sweden and the markets that they do serve. I was in
that's true.
Europe last year, and I looked for it everywhere I went. We had a few stops there. It was a cruise, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I
know you were looking for
specifically. Yeah. Especially at the airports. Cause I thought if I'm gonna find it anywhere, it'd be here.
You're going to try and smuggle it over.
Yeah. I wasn't going to do that. 11th place, Marcus, or new Marcus, as I like to call him. He had an issue in qualifying where he was penalized for impeding Lundgaard. But he made his way through the field. And like you said earlier, I'm biggest mover of the race. Started 26th, finished 11th. If he had finished 11th,
and as you mentioned, this is a massive race for my dark horse pick.
Yeah, massive race. Really, really massive race. His third race with the season, or with the team this season, right? And he's come along. Hey, he's magically gelled faster than Alexander Rossi, who's been with his same strategist for several years.
Yeah, and he's in the same car that didn't do so well last year. So
Get in and drive.
He's good.
And that's what he did.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got another European-esque track coming up. So I expect him to be strong in a couple of weeks, and we'll see him in person.
Yeah.
Yes. We're going to see him in person.
We're going to see him in person. That's going to be exciting. Yeah.
I got my green envelope right next to me.
There you go. Good job. Isn't it blue?
Yeah. No, it's green. It's only blue for the 500, I believe.
Oh.
Well, let me hold up and get my address out of there. But
there you go. Yeah.
Look right there.
Good job. I'm excited.
We're going to the race, folks. We're going to the race.
Can't wait to go. Smash in about 3 bags of popcorn the whole time we're gone. And we're only going to be on one night.
And drive with your knee.
That's right. The Dan's Power 5th team, and then Tim, I'll turn it over to you. Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan.
Do it.
Right? I don't know how you.
There's no way you chose them.
Yeah. On the premise of Lundgaard's weekend, right? And it's funny. I was watching this whole thing play out. It's just interesting because you see Lundgaard, and then you see Graham and Jack, right? Or you don't see Graham and Jack. You see Lundgaard.
You just
don't see Graham and Jack, right?
You don't see anybody else from the team.
Right. And it's kind of one of those things, Tim, where it's like, you go into a restaurant, you're seated, you get your water, and then you see another table come in and they get seated, right? And they get their water. And then you kind of, you place your order and they place their order, and then you're sitting there, right? And one guy gets a salad, but at the next table, right, they came in after you, but they got everything already, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's this team, right? Lundgaard got served his entire entree. Graham got his little salad, and Jack's sitting there with an empty water glass, right? That is Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan at Barber. And they liked one of my tweets, so too. God forbid that they listen to this episode of the podcast. I mean it with all due respect, but that's how this looked to me, man. It was one guy that got it so right, and the other two just didn't get it together.
How does that happen?
I have no idea.
I guess you could put a little feather in your cap to go, well, at least we got one car right. We got it right in qualifying and in the race. Yeah. The other two, we didn't get anything right.
Right.
Graham a little bit, like you mentioned. And then Harvey.
Nowhere to be found. Started and finished 24th.
Yeah, just terrible.
Yeah. Lundgaard started and finished 6th, right? Compared to his teammates, this is huge. Huge. He was in the mix, and in an Andretti, who knows? On a 3-stop strategy, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? For all the reasons you mentioned, that's why Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan is not my Power 5 pick, because you have one car that gets it right, the rest are terrible. 2 more guys.
I had to do it on the strength of Lundgaard. I really did. I couldn't do it on the strength of anything else going on there. But Graham finished 7th, not the usual run through the field for Graham, which means they missed it completely, because Graham's not a great qualifier. The team really doesn't put together a great qualifying package for him, but he always races really, really well, right? He's always fun to watch in the races. Jack started or finished 24th, and started 24th. He finished 24th. So you got one table, got his entree and dessert, and you got the table that came in first. Yeah. It's got Graham 2 empty glasses of water and a small salad.
Yeah, Graham picked up 2 spots. Harvey finished where he started. So again, for the reasons you just mentioned, they are not my Power 5 team.
Who is your Power 5 team?
And
just for the listeners in the pre-production meeting, right? Tim doesn't want me to put my Power 5 team in the notes anymore, but I did it because I kind of alluded to it. Yeah, nobody
was going to be surprised today, though, with your pick.
There's no way.
My pick is Juncos Hollinger Racing and Callum.
There's no surprise there either.
Specifically.
Yeah, great. Toss up for me, by the way.
That's my pick. Yeah. You got a small budget team.
Yes.
Doing very well. And so what you have is you got Callum Ilott finishing 13th, started 15th. Good day for them. You're right behind Kyle Kirkwood. You're in front of Colton Herta. You beat the Andretti guys. You're right with them. The Andretti guys that didn't do so well, as you mentioned earlier. But you had a steady go, and you keep building and building. I know Long Beach was not good. It was a good rebound for them. Think of this. This team beat Rinus VeeKay, who qualified in the top 6, right? He was part of the Fast 6. You beat VK and all of Ed Carpenter Racing. You beat AJ Foyt Racing, Meyer Shank Racing.
Coin.
You beat Coin, and you beat 2 of the 3 RLL drivers.
Yeah.
They got to be the top 5 team. You
Absolutely.
expect, I think everybody expects Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan to do well, be well. They had one car that did well. Didn't bring them up to Power 5 for me.
Right. Callum Ilott also
Now, I
on a
didn't
3-stop
mention
strategy.
Augustine. He didn't have a good day.
No, he had
He's
a
a rookie,
day.
though.
Really rough.
So he had a rough day, but that's okay. I think this small team is going to continue to do well. Augustine's going to figure it out. I think he's going to do much better at the Indy GP. And Callum Ilott, man, stud.
Just at a glance, Agustin Campino has more points than Santino Ferrucci, Elio Castroneves, Benjamin Peterson, Devlin DeFrancesco, Jack Harvey, Connor Daly, and Stingray Ram.
There you go. Second in the rookie points.
Yep.
Still learning for sure.
Yep. Great pick. You can't argue with that pick. I can't, certainly, and I can't argue with anything. You know that. I don't. Yeah. I can't argue with them.
I think they got to be the Power 5 team.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the listeners think. Which one should be there?
Yeah, me too.
Share I think they both have merit, right? Both have merit, but I think who's more deserving of that Power 5 ranking? I'm just curious.
Yep. Timmy, we haven't played Big Deal or Big Deal in a while. You ready?
We're playing it?
Yes. I got one NASCAR Big Deal or Big Deal. NASCAR driver tweeted. I got the pictures on my phone. I can't tell you where my phone is.
I was going to say, what did he tweet? Like, I don't even know.
I don't even have my phone. Oh my God. So he basically tweets out that NASCAR drivers are the more versatile drivers.
Oh, I did see this. Okay.
And then you can't argue with the very candid response from Scott McLaughlin that says this is an ignorant tweet, basically is what he said. He took issue with it, of course. And then Dale Jr., right, the elder statesman at this point in his career, his NASCAR career, so to speak, tweets out, a copy or retweeted what Landon had kind of come back to say, and that was, IndyCar drivers are more versatile drivers.
Mm-hmm.
This thing has gone all over the place on Twitter. Have you seen it?
I've not followed it that closely, but I've seen a few things on it. I know you sent some to me too, but I didn't follow it along. I've been too busy today.
Oh, yeah, I did send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah. If what you said is true, you said Dale Earnhardt Jr. tweeted the portion that said IndyCar drivers are the most versatile.
Yeah, he said so. Landon Castle 21 hours ago. So he tweeted this afterward. He would say, I would say IndyCar drivers are more versatile than F1 drivers, V8 supercars, rally, and probably most other forms of motorsports, but not more versatile than a Cup Series drive. Oh my God, I didn't even see that part. Yeah, so it's just ridiculous. He's trying to create this argument. So
yeah, I don't know. It's a wash for me on this one.
Scott McLaughlin, NASCAR drivers are very good, very being in all caps, very versatile, very again in all caps, not the most versatile in the world. If you're good, you have to be versatile. Doesn't matter if you race NASCAR, Indy, sports cars, F1, or karting.
Yeah. I don't think you can.
Big deal or big deal?
That's a big deal. It doesn't do anything for me. Big deal.
Ferrari is losing their racing director, Laurent Mekies. Surely I mispronounced that. He's going to be the new team principal at AlphaTauri next season. Big deal or big deal?
Big deal.
I think it's a big deal.
You do?
Yeah. Franz Tost has been the principal at AlphaTauri since day one. And I want to say that the guy they're replacing him with is the guy, the plan B. We're going to plan B. I want to say that that's who that is. I want to say that's who it is because I pray and hope for that voice on the radio and on those in-race interviews. That's the voice I'm hoping for. So I don't know if that's it, but I'm hoping that's what it is.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
That's no big deal to you? I think it's a big deal. I think it's big. IndyCar extends with Barber through 2027. Big deal or big deal?
It's a big deal, I guess.
I think
I
that's
guess
a
it
big
doesn't
deal.
come as a surprise, so it's
No.
like it's
it's a great market. Who would have thought that this market would be great with IndyCar? Yeah. You're that close to Nashville, because I looked at it. I'm not kidding you. I looked it up. I want to go next year. So you looked at it. It's reasonably close. It's within that kind of that marketing area, I would think, for Nashville. And Nashville has a pretty successful street race that they've put on. I think the racing's horrible.
4 hours? 4 hours?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, I think you need to be in that market. Yeah. It is the Augusta of motorsports park. So you got to go there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. 189,000 viewers of week 1 for 100 Days to Indy. Big deal or big deal?
It's a big deal. Big deal.
That's a little bit of a 189,000, right?
It's better than what were you expecting?
$500,000.
Really?
Yeah. It's in every
optimistic.
House.
I know.
And to stream it is free.
What were they up against, though?
Cost to barrier. The draft. But that's why I'm saying the streaming and everything. We don't know what the streaming numbers are. Yeah.
The day after.
We don't know what those numbers are, but I didn't watch the draft. I never watched the draft.
10 million people watched the draft. Almost 11 million people.
Guess who didn't? Me.
Yeah, and 189 other thousand people.
Yeah. So big deal. I think that's a big deal. I really do. I think that I don't want to.
You're saying
I'm
it's
stopping
a big
short
deal
saying it's kind of
number.
a turd, but I mean 189,000. Well, I guess we'll see what happens this week, right? We don't know who's going to be shirtless in this episode, but nonetheless, we'll have to see what happens this week. Have you watched it yet?
I watched it Friday night. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I watched it the day after, and I was able to fast forward all the commercials.
Thank God there was
everybody was talking
so many damn commercials. Our show in what was it? 24 minutes.
Yeah, it was our show, and they're typically
48.
It's 40 minutes.
Yeah.
40 minutes, 40 something.
A couple of observations. A lot of FaceTime for Hinch. I like that. He's so good he really is. I'd love to see him in a car, but he's so good. Nathan Brown, Jenna Fryer, both really good. Great exposure for both of them, right? We met Nathan Brown. We didn't really meet Jenna Fryer when we were in Detroit, but we saw her. McLaughlin's in-laws. I know who I want to hang out with over a race weekend. And I'm telling you, if I see them at Road America, I'm hopping the fence and I'm going to sit down with them. I don't drink anymore, but I'm going to sit down and hang out with them anyway.
Right? I was going to say, you could just compare tattoos because you have a lot of those. And
some, so. That'll be fun.
There you go. You can do that. Yeah.
Marcus Ericsson, super nice guy. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And probably, I did it, I'm guilty. Probably why he's overlooked sometimes, right? He's just not getting it with the same amount of flair as some of the other guys that came in right around the same time.
Killer Instinct.
Right? Award.
Talk about that?
Yeah, Killer Instinct. Yeah. That's a good question. We're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Did you enjoy it?
I thought it was okay.
This show?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it kind of evolve, right? Like even some of the Drive to Survives, which is like contrived sometimes, you can tell it, how it's got some, some things in there that are contrived. This isn't, but they're developing characters at this point in storylines. So it was only the first race, or it was only the first, the first episode based on the first race. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And testing at thermal. Yeah.
Chevy and Honda have 2 wins each, but Chevy has wins on what I would consider to be the power tracks, and that's Texas and Barber. Honda has wins on the drivability tracks, St. Pete and Long Beach. Tim, is this a big deal or is big deal?
Big deal.
You don't care? You don't think it means anything?
No, I think we're too early in the season to draw any conclusions at this point.
I think it means a little something going into the month of May. And I think Indy GP is going to be a power track. And certainly the 500 is a power situation as well.
So you're expecting the Chevys to have a lot of power for the Ganassi crew?
I do.
Hmm. Well, I'm
Arrow
curious how
McLaren,
the fuel
ECR,
mileage might play
Penske.
out in Indianapolis for the 500.
Yeah. That's always a
That'll be
concern.
interesting to see. You can
3
have a lot more
stops at
power, but
Barber
if you don't-
versus 2 for all those Hondas. Right? Might have your answer there.
Yeah.
We'll see what the stops look like at Indy GP, unless it rains like it did last year. But we'll see what happens this year.
That's an interesting point you made. I'm just seeing if any of the Hondas
So it is a big
made
deal.
a 3-stopper.
There are some Honda
Now that you brought
three-stoppers
that up, that kind of piqued my interest.
Mhm.
Up until then, I just thought you were power track versus not. I just thought you were kind of throwing it out there, but I don't know. I don't think
Lucas
it's a big
had
deal,
3
honestly.
stops at
Not yet.
Barber. Yeah. Renus
Yeah.
VK started his 50th race at Barber. This is a big deal. Period. End of story.
No, it's not.
Yes,
a big
it is.
deal.
I don't care what you think.
Oh gosh. Big deal.
Championship standings. Ericsson leads. Award second. The leader, but not the team leader. Alex Palou is in third. 5 ahead of his leader. But McLaughlin takes fourth. This is quite a move for Scott McLaughlin there. Grosjean fifth. Newgarden sixth. There's a slip there for him. 7th place for Will Power. 8th place, Scott Dixon. 9th place, Kyle Kirkwood. 10th for Herta.
Yeah.
I'm going to make some notables outside the top 10, though.
All right, let's do it.
Your guy, Callum Ilott, 11th. Lundgaard, 12th. I don't know what my expectations are there, but Lundgaard, 12th. Rossi and Rosenquist, 14th and 15th, respectively. I have Rossi inside my top 10 for the season. You have Rossi and Rosenquist in your top 10 for the season.
Yeah, they got some work to do, right?
Yeah, they do. I don't have Ericsson in my top 10 at all, by the way,
and he's leading the championship.
Huge miss by me. Huge miss by me.
You know, when you start off the season with the win, it definitely helps you.
Helps. Yep. Finally, I guess I got a question. It makes me wonder if the phrase 10 tenths was a inside joke like drinking game, because I feel like I heard 10 tenths the whole weekend, a little too much on that whole IndyCar broadcast. Well, it's hard to go out there and drive 10 tenths. Go out there and drive 10 tenths. He might be out there driving 10 tenths, but he's got to back off and save some fuel. You can't drive 10 tenths when you're out there driving, to a fuel.
Yeah.
So, anywho, we got a couple of weeks, Timmy, before the Indy GP. Where are you going to be that weekend?
Oh, I'm going to be at the race. Are you going, Dan?
I'm going. I'm going with you. I'm going with you and your kids.
The green envelope. Yes.
Yeah.
It should be fun. What is that equal to? The 5 of us are there. Should be fun.
Yeah. 3 kids. You and me.
Hopefully we'll see some listeners out there. I'm sure there's going to be some out there.
Oh, yeah. If you're out there, let us know. Tweet us.
Yeah, let us know
in the comments on the YouTube channel, whatever.
Yeah,
you'll find Tim and his 3 children at the Arrow McLaren souvenir tent.
With bags and bags
of stuff. Yeah. So
that's how my kids roll.
Yep.
Dan,
hey, future,
sure, whatever.
Yeah,
We're at the track. You can get whatever you want.
Sure. Next week's episode, which would be the Indy GP preview, will be late, and it's due to some business travel for me. Stay tuned, and make sure that you hit the subscribe button, both on your favorite podcast app as well as the YouTube channel. This way it lets you know that we have posted an updated show. Also, reminder, don't forget episode 2 of 100 Days to Indy this Thursday, May 4th on the CW. Or you can watch the commercial-free version by DVRing it or watching it on the... Actually, I don't really know if the app is commercial-free, but
is the app? I don't know if it is
DVR it and skip all them damn commercials. Like I said, no idea if anybody will be shirtless this week, but I guess we'll have to find out.
Let's hope
I got, Tim. How about you?
I'm good. It's a great show. Good times.
Yeah, good times, fun times. Be sure to check out IndyCar1909.com, especially as we get closer to the 500. Spencer will have a lot of great stuff posted there for the month of May. Be sure to subscribe engage with us on Twitter, our social media channels. We always try to get some responses out. We have always a lot of YouTube comments, and we appreciate those. We always try to comment on those. We pulled in some of those last week, but this show we were worried about running long, so we didn't want to make it even longer. So, but we do appreciate everything. And like I said, we always try to comment. Sometimes Tim and I both comment on those. I'm always the little D at the end when I comment on those. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Take care.